Heath, welcome to One on One.
Thank you. Sibongile mdala. Unjani la?
Heath, let's go back to reps. At that time, you were playing in grade 4 for the first team. Unbelievable stuff. The cricket bug had hit you. Your father Dennis was supporting you, and from a very early stage, you loved the game and you were talented at it. Talk us through the years after.
Well, just to reiterate, I'd started all when I went to Australia. My gran was living there, and I got into cricket. I always grew up around a cricket field with Dad playing for Rhodesia and then Zimbabwe later on in his career. And so when I went to reps, I always wanted to play cricket, and it was sort of, we were lucky. It was a school that had all the facilities, and we had lots of good coaching. Bob Blair, it was quite a big New Zealand bowler. He helped me out a lot. Of course, Dad's always played a role, especially in my earlier days. And so from the age of 8 to 9, I was playing first team cricket at reps out at the Metopus where I was for my primary education.
Then you go to Falcon. Other guys like Moggy Evans have come from there. Were those tough years?
No, I wouldn't term them tough years. I think fortunate years. I was lucky. I was in an age group and in a school that had extremely good facilities, great coaching. There were a lot of guys who played the sport and represented the country at junior levels through to under 18. So I was very fortunate to be involved with all that, and I think it helped my cricket become stronger and better. There was a lot more competition, and we got that recognition, and we got to go on tours and things that probably had I been in other schools, maybe not have had as much opportunity.
Right. So great grounding, but you come out of Falcon. At that time, Zimbabwe's in pretty much a semi-professional league in terms of Dave, Alistair and Andy trying to get the professional ranks going and getting us as a test-playing nation, with obviously the official work as well. So you don't consider a full-time in cricket, it's more part-time. In the off-season you go hunting.
Yeah, I always wanted to be professional, even at that stage. Obviously, having known that all the other countries were playing and we were on the verge, we were pushing for test cricket, and I always wanted to do it. But at the same time, I had to consider other routes that I would sort of take and that to eke out a living. So I looked at the safari industry, which we're in. We've now established our safari industry. It's called Ntogozweni Safaris, and it's something that I've always been interested in. And initially, it was more off-season. I was hunting and learning the trade as it was, and getting involved in the farm. I was lucky to have that sort of initially to be able to fall back and rely on that.
Whittle.
Yeah, to rely on that though. I mean, a lot of the Zim cricketers who are now professional were lucky in that their parents were able to cushion them and help them and sort of finance them in the early days when it was a bit harder. The money wasn't that good, and we were playing for the love of the game, which we still do. But now it's a profession for us.
Heath, at one time you were ranked one of the world's best, the 5th best bowler in the world. How do you carry that sort of mantle?
Well, I think you don't really worry about that too much. I think the main thing you focus on is just carrying on and playing and not worrying about ratings, and that at the end of the day you've got a job to do. You've got to go out and try and win a game for Zimbabwe, and you've got 10 other guys who are on the field with you, and you've got to give your best to try and do that. Obviously, to have that rating and that is an honour, and that, but I try not to focus too much on it. You don't want to let it get to you, or you start worrying about it, or when you're bowling, thinking, you can become a bit selfish if you do it that way. So I think at the end of the day, ratings come second. Your team and the result is what comes first. You want to play every game to win.
You've always been very proud of Zimbabwe, and in particular Bulawayo. But there must have been some times you thought, like a Graham Hick or a Trevor Penny or some others, hey, let's get out of Zimbabwe and make a lot of money and play professionally elsewhere, county, etc. Did that ever come across your mind?
Yeah, well, obviously I played a season of county cricket, which I think helped me a lot. I was very young, probably probably a season or two earlier than I probably should have gone. However, it was experience that I don't regret now. I learned a lot by it, and I've always thought about going overseas, but I'd never leave. I love Zimbabwe. I love my lifestyle. I love the place, and I couldn't think of anything worse than having to leave Zimbabwe. I can't see myself being in England, for example. It's just it's a bit different. The lifestyle you have in Turkmen on the ranch is a little different to what you'd get elsewhere in the world, and you get used to it, and I enjoy it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Great news to hear. So the pound won't steal you away. You're only 25 years old. You've got a lot of years left, but you're suffering with injuries right now. How's that affecting your bowling in the long term? Obviously, in the short term.
I think that obviously injuries come in anyone's careers. They do happen especially with the amount of cricket that's being played. I think one of our problems here is not having the depth in terms of numbers that other countries have. It's a bit harder for people to call on quality bowlers to come and bowl in the nets and to relieve pressure of guys like myself, Henry, Edo, those guys from having to bowl.
Right.
Obviously it's improved a lot. It's a lot more professional now.
Right. These guys like Everton. But let me ask you this: for every ball bowled that we see, how many have you practiced with? 100?
Geesh, no, I wouldn't say 100, but it would be hard to equate it. Probably 5 or 6 to every ball bowled. In net sessions. But you have other games. League games and social games and that. So it's hard to actually equate it, isn't it?
Right. But there's a lot of practice that we've seen you doing, and the run-ups are all 100%. There's no holding back at those practice sessions.
Yeah.
Moving now on to some of the amazing feats that you've accomplished besides World Cup, which obviously stands out as a highlight. Australia at Lords. Talk us through that.
Oh, that was a great game. Obviously, from where we were in the World Cup and having got to this, to the Super 6 stage. Having beaten South Africa, India, and Kenya in the initial rounds was quite special. But then to play Australia and at Lords, and we had a full house crowd there. It was jam packed. And
did you see all the Zimbabwean supporters?
Yeah. Funnily enough, there were quite a few there. We also had a lot of relatives, friends, family over, and of course all the Poms. Backed us before the Aussies. So at one stage when Jono was really doing well, they were all chanting for Zim. It was quite special to be there, and
one of the first times Zimbabweans get welcomed in.
Yeah, and to play at Lords, I'd played county cricket before at Lords, but to play in an international in the World Cup at Lords against Australia, and to be sitting up on that balcony is something special, and it's something you can't really explain to someone unless they actually go out there and they actually stand on that balcony and see that full packed stadium there.
Heath, you admire Dennis Lilly. Who are your modern day heroes?
Well, there's a lot of them. Obviously, guys like Wasim Akram, Curtly Ambrose, guys who come to the end of their careers. We've always admired. When I first started, they were sort of the peak of their careers coming, and they were the big names. So they're the sort of guys I look up to now. Obviously the spinners to a lesser degree, in terms of respect. Guys like Shane Warne, what they've achieved. What's it like to meet these guys? One day you got them on your wall as a little 15-year-old looking at Curtly Ambrose. Next thing you're meeting him and playing against him. Yeah, and it's obviously very different when you meet them as players, and you obviously do feel honoured to be associate and be able to play against them, but they like everyone else, you soon get to know that they are real people, and they're just like everyone else.
How would you feel to know that probably many young kids got your face up on a wall somewhere wanting to bowl like you with all that aggression?
Oh well, I suppose it's like I said earlier on, it's an honour to be looked up and be in world rankings and stuff, and hopefully that I can be a good role model and I'm sure one day when I have kids, hopefully they'll be looking up on others and who are playing currently, and some of the young guys who coming into the side now.
Heath, one tournament that we could look at from a perspective of overcoming would be the India game. Talk us through that.
Yeah, we had problems with extras in that game, particularly India. They had more of a problem than we did. We sort of started badly with our bowling, never really got it. In the early part of that tournament, the ball was swinging around a lot in English conditions. We weren't quite used to it, and we gave away a lot of extras. But we came back well in that game. We bowled ourselves back into the game. I picked up a couple of wickets, which was nice to come back after having not done so well earlier on in that game in particular. And then they sort of put on a partnership, Mongier and Robin Singh, and then Henry came and did his trick for us, and that was just a magic moment. To do that for us was, I think that made Henry's World Cup for sure.
If that ball was given to you, would have you done the same thing?
I couldn't answer that question, but I think Henry was definitely the one who could do that more often. He is our strike bowler, he's our quick, and he was the one who was likely to do that. And I think it was quite a brave call by Alistair, and it worked.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
South Africa World Cup, probably a moment that will live with you forever. Heath, we'd like to hear from you as we watch some of the footage from that World Cup. Heath, the first ball, Gary Kirsten out, Neil Johnson, must have sent a shockwave of excitement through the bowling team.
Yeah, having done well and gotten a defendable total on the board, obviously that was a fantastic start to start the game like that, and it just instills confidence in the guys who are bowling. So that was special, and it was a great catch by Andy Owen. I think it'll always stay in the mind's eye, and I certainly, looking at it from the other end, because I was going to come on the bowl the second over, I thought, well, that lifted me a bit. So it's something.
And now as we watch your run up to your first wicket, all that aggression in your eyes, the white lipstick, talk us through.
Well, obviously the South Africa game, we had to be very focused. It was an important game for us, having done so well in the early stages, beaten Kenya, beaten India. We were sort of up there, and then we lost our next two games. Our best chance was Sri Lanka, and then we didn't do so well against England, so we left it to the last minute, and we had to win that game, and we were all focused. I think where we were probably took the pressure off us a bit. So coming in and bowling to those guys, and Jono doing well at the other end, and then I picked up Mark Boucher. I think he looked like he tried to pull the ball. It wasn't quite there to pull. It was a bit fuller than he anticipated, I think, and it was an off cutter, and I got him out LB, so that was quite good. And I got John T. Rhodes in a pretty similar fashion after he had sort of nipped me through covers for four.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, here comes, as he can only do that. He's quite good at turning things around. So that was, those two early wickets I think were really special, in that they all came in close unison to Neil's wickets and really turned the game for us.
What's your key thought while you go back to field?
To bowl, well,
you're coming off an incredible high.
Yeah, well, obviously you want to remain in perspective and not let your focus be taken away from what you're actually doing. As we say, it's never over till it's over. You've got to make sure you follow through, and we've been guilty of that in the past as a team. So I was thinking, well, let's make sure of it now, and I'm going to give 100%, do as best as I can for the rest of the team to make sure that I sit at the change room afterwards and I can look back and say, well, I gave 100%, and if we win or lose, it wasn't because I didn't put in my bit.
Well,
Yeah.
Talking about your bit, you took 12 wickets in the World Cup. Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I was a little disappointed. My economy rate wasn't as good as I could have been, and it was probably more due to extras and stuff. I did have a problem with it,
Is that through forcing, or are you just trying too hard?
No, well, not really. I think it was just probably not being used to the conditions and the ball to start with, and then confidence plays a big role. I was lucky in Nottingham. Clive Rice was there, and I got some tips from him, and from there I bowled a lot better, reasonably against England, and then very well against South Africa, and that's I was reasonably pleased after that.
Some obvious questions to you from the bowlers, that would be, how do you swing the ball?
Well, the main thing is your wrist. You're getting your fingers behind the ball, as compared to a spinner who's rolling his fingers over the ball. You'd be holding the ball on the seam. I use a firm wrist. I find I get more swing out of it. Obviously, my action comes into it, and your full action, including your follow through, all will sort of result in the amount of swing you get. So it's quite complex. Some people are more wristy. A guy like Alan Donald does a lot more wrist, but he doesn't get as much swing as say a guy like Jacques Callis, who's got a firmer wrist. So it varies from a guy like Wasim Akram has mastered his wrist action to the extent, and his action in general, to the extent that he can swing the ball both ways.
Heath, the Bulawayo story. The Whittles, yourself, Jono's now there, Henry Alonga. Question, is Henry as good off the pitch as he is on?
Yeah, he's not bad. He's a big alcoholic. All know that. No, I'm just joking. Henry's a great guy. He always has been very talented with his music and his athletics. He's always been. I've always known him from junior school days. He was very sulky as a youngster. Really? Yeah. We used to rip him off because he would come back and during athletics meetings, and he'd have a sulky face and we'd say, well, what's the matter? What happened? And I came first. We
didn't set a record or something.
But he has improved a lot. He's got to work on his swimming quite a bit, especially after an episode in Sri Lanka where he nearly drowned.
Well, you haven't had that much water in Bulawayo, so it's understandable.
Yeah, so it's Plumtree as well, and they had water rationing, so they had to take all the water out the pool, I think. So.
How do the guys receive Henry with this sort of braided hairstyle?
He's always been, part of the guys. He's always fitted in with the guys. Obviously, we do, as all Zimbabweans do. I think we like ripping each other off a lot, and Henry certainly had his fair share of it. I'll call him Stiffy because he's always got an excuse. His back's always stiff, or his arms or something. Right. Always got an excuse.
Heath, just a quick note on hunting. Is this a good way for you to relieve the tensions of being in the limelight all the time? And do you see yourself doing this as a full-time profession after cricket?
Well, we're in our family's in the safari business, so and I enjoy being in the bush. It's just out there and in the wilderness and doing your own thing. I just love it. I love wildlife and I love the hunting bit, and I do a bit of bird shooting that in the off season. It's what I do for my sort of.
You don't take a couple of bats out there and throw a few balls at a lion or two or anything?
No.
Just for a little extra fun.
No, I wouldn't take that up as a pastime. I think it's a bit more dangerous than doing it professionally.
Well, a great spirit, a great guy, part of the team. You've been there for a while and many years ahead. We hope you come back from injury. And maybe a final word to your supporters in Bulawayo.
Yeah, just to all the guys out there, bonke abafana labadoda, mfuna lonke lizame ukudlala icricket, njalo mfuna lisincede sonke eZimbabwe ukuze ukuthi igame yethu iphumelele, ngoba mfuna lina abafana libe yingcithi yokudlala igame le engidlalayo. Lisale kuhle.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself.